So here we're going to talk about the difference between a parameter and a statistic. So the summarization of data has different names based on its group. So when we talk about summarization of data, that's going to be things, like when we talk about the average age of a group or the median income of a group or the percentage of people who voted a certain way. It's a numerical summation of the data that we have. So, like 50% of people liked Bob, there's a summarization of your data. A parameter is a numerical description of a population characteristic. So the average age of all people in the United States is 38.5 years old. So we're talking about the whole population. This is a parameter. So the parameter is average age. It's 38.5. Statistic is a numerical description of a simple characteristic. So instead of looking at everybody in the United States, we're just looking at a sample of the people in the United States. So if we took the sample, we might get the average age of people from the sample of 3 states is 40.2 years old. So my statistic is going to be that. And mostly what we're going to deal with is statistics. Parameters, if we had a parameter, then there's not as much work going on. So usually what we do is statistics are a way to guess parameters. It's very hard to sample the entire population in the United States. That's why, if you notice, that data comes from the US Census Bureau. We go through every 10 years and go through and try to ask everybody. So it is an attempt at collecting the whole population. But this is not something that's easy to do. And this takes a long time to do it. And it costs a lot of money to do a sample, or not sample, but do a study on everybody. Usually what we're going to focus on is those samples. So we're mostly going to be dealing with those statistics. And you notice that my statistic age is not the same as my parameter age. And this is going to happen a lot because we're talking about comparing a sample to a population, and samples are always going to be slightly off from populations. So just to go through this, which of the following is a statistic and which is a parameter? So 75, let's try it again. 57% of teachers at a central high school are female. And then the other summarization of data is in a sample of 100 surgery patients who are given a new pain reliever, 78% of them reported significant pain relief. So this one here mentions we have a sample of 100. So we have a sample of 100 patients. So this is going to be a statistic that we're talking about. And that statistic is a summarization of what we know about that 100 patients. So my statistic is 75% of 100 surgery patients reported pain relief. Well, I report significant relief, but we don't need to write everything in there all the time. Here on the first one, so this is 70% of the teachers at Central High School, or 57, I keep saying 75, I'm sorry. 57% of teachers at Central High School are female. So we don't mention anything about samples, so we said it's the teachers. So when you don't specify an amount, you're assuming this is a population, because we're really looking at all teachers. And if that's a population, then that means that we have a parameter. And my parameter is going to be the summarization of what we know about all these teachers. And what we know is that my parameter is 57% of all the teachers at Central High School are female. Okay, so my first one's a parameter because clearly it comes from a population because we're talking about all the teachers in the high school. The second one's a statistic because it clearly comes from a sample of 100 patients. And then this is just a little more complicated. So you may want to pause and think about this before we do it. But we're going to identify the sample, the population, the parameter, and the statistic. So the average body temperature of adults is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. One study of 45 adults found an average body temperature of 98.2. So from A, I want you to look at it and identify what is the sample that they're looking at, what was the population it came from, what is the parameter, was the statistic. And then for B, look for all the same things again, but this time you have a polling company surveys 50 households in the state of Texas. The polling company discovered that the median household income of the 50 households to be $54,000. The median Texas household income is actually $68,000, and that's actually different now. This is older data. Okay, so if we look at A, we want that sample. And we want that population. So the average body temperatures of adults is 98.6 degrees. And then we have one study of 45 adults found the average body temperature is 98.2. So this part right here, this is only a portion of all adults. So when I just say adults and I don't put a number on it, this is going to be a population. So my population is all adults. And a portion of that would be that 45 adults. So now we know that this here is a population. Right here, this number here is going to tell me that I'm going to have a parameter. So my parameter is an average temp. So it's not just a number by itself, but what does that number mean? So the parameter is the average body temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. So this right here we said is our sample. So the information following that, this number is going to tell me about a statistic. So my statistic is average body temperature. Is 98.2 degrees Fahrenheit. So it just depends on what it's describing. When that data, that average body temperature describes that population, it's a parameter. When it's describing a sample, it's a statistic. All right, so B, it's a little more complicated. It's kind of the way I worded it to make it kind of think about it a little more. A polling company surveyed 50 households in the state of Texas. So this is not all my households. So that tells me that my sample is going to be 50 Texas households. And the polling company discovered that the median household income of those 50 households be 54,000. So that means the statistic is going to be median income is 54,000. And then the next part, the median Texas household income. So I didn't put a number of how many households we're looking at. So I said median Texas household income. So that's all Texas households. So that means the data that we get here has to be a parameter. And what my parameter says is the median income is going to be $58,000.